All right, you are going to fail in your life if you will be listening to your favorite spiritual coaches. And I learned that the hard way. And today I'm going to talk about the things. Why is that? How is that happening? Why you may fail in your life? And I have written down 10 things exactly why you may be misguided, right? So let's start with the first one. Most of your spiritual coaches that you listen to use only one method. That may be some kind of runes. That may be some kind of numerology method. Maybe astrology. Maybe they use crystals. Maybe they use some kind of hypnosis, regression hypnosis, etc. Maybe they use their some kind other method, right? And that's actually the problem. And that's the problem because when you know only one thing, you miss on all other things. And one thing may not always be true. So, for example, if you listen to some kind of numerologist online, they may say you have those numbers in your birth chart, you have those numbers, so that's why you're going to be successful, you're not going to be successful, and that's actually BS. So, it's not good to know only one method. And especially if you're going to teach others and inspire others to pursue their careers, whatever. Second thing is that black or white, no gray zone. And what does that mean? That means that some coaches think that if you have some particular things in you, in your spiritual world, so called, that it's either good or bad. But they don't understand that a lot of things correlate with each other. And to give some kind of prediction in your life, whatever that may be, or some coaching in spiritual journey, they say that it's either good or either bad, right? And that's completely not true because you as a person, you as a spiritual person, so called, one day you may behave like this, other day you may behave differently, and everything that it happens, energies correlate, right? You have different kind of energies. One day it might explode, other day you may not use it. So called simply, in simple terms, right? Third thing, they're not here to do that. I can't tell you how much I see people on TikToks, on social media that just learned one method, or maybe they got coached by some coach, right? And they are trying to teach that thing other people. But they themselves don't understand that they are not meant to do that. And I've seen a lot of people, man. I've seen a lot of people doing just like that. Because those people may not know exactly using numerology or astrology that maybe they are not created for that, right? And that actually can be really bad because if a person who's not meant to do that teaches you, that's not good actually. They can mislead you really, really bad in your life, right? Fourth part is no ethics. Some of those spiritual coaches tell you, do this or do that, and they don't claim responsibility. Of course, you can't claim responsibility for using esoteric knowledge, so called occult knowledge, because it's not proven, right? It's not like physical, tangible, right? It's not like a tangible product that you send your client and the package arrives and everything is clear, right? And it's not some kind of like business coaching, right? So, for example, if I tell you in your business, do this, do that, you'll get the X result, right? That's tangible. You can see that because of my coaching, you got better results, right? But in spirituality, it's not always like that because spirituality, it takes your whole life. Now, I'm not the best version of me compared to 10 years in front of me, right? And they don't claim any responsibility, and they can fuck up a lot of lives just by doing that. And for example, I'm more talking about numerologists, astrologists, those kind of specialists, right? They may say you do this, do that, right? But of course, somewhere in their page, like with small letters, there will be written that we don't claim any responsibility, right? But they tell you that that's wrong for you, that's good for you, even though they don't really know themselves, because they just know the basic information that they learned from some course, etc. And that's why they can destroy your life. Because I've seen a lot of things online that, for example, there is a numerologist coach, right? And some person asks him, my date is 1982, and whatever, right? And can I become rich in my lifetime? Or can I get back my girlfriend or my, I don't know, husband, right? And the numerologist says, no, you can't. Or no, you don't have that energy in your birthday, that's why you won't become rich, right? So for example, some numerologists say that there is number 28, and if you have that number in your birth matrix, you're gonna be rich like, I don't know, Elon Musk, right? And that's completely bullshit. Because they just take numbers as it is, and they say only the good stuff, for example, about that number. That if you have this number, you may be rich, right? And of course, when you look online, you take one famous person, other person who's famous, right? And you look at their birth chart, their numbers, you can see, yeah, I mean, if I would have seen that birth matrix, I would say, yeah, that person may be really rich in his life, right? But you don't take another 7 billion people, and I know millions of other people who are born on the same date, who are in poverty, who are living in poverty, who are not rich, and they won't become rich, right? But they don't say about that. And the other thing is how they are going to destroy life is you can believe them 100%, right? And if you'll believe them, it will be really hard to challenge your belief later, right? So for example, if you'll ask some question, can I work in sales? Can I work on, I know, TV, can I make social media content? Can I be an influencer, right? And the person may say, no, you don't have that third energy or some other numbers, right? You can't do that. And the person then will believe that it's true and may not even try to do that. And that's the worst thing you can do. Just blindly trust someone who doesn't even know you, who just read few numbers of your chart. That's the worst thing you can do. That's the worst thing you can do. So that's why you must have critical thinking. And it's really hard because it took me so many years. Because previously, a lot of years ago, I used to believe blindly what I've seen in some kind of teachings on YouTube, on courses, mini courses, right? And actually, that stopped me really, really, really a lot from pursuing certain paths, right? So, for example, I can give you an example, right? Like 10 years ago, someone in astrology, numerology, I mean, in those things, right? One person said that you are not able to sell things to people. You are not meant to be talking, persuading people, selling them things. And I thought, fuck, what I'm going to do in my life? Will I need to sit in an office, work with an Excel, right? Some stupid thoughts, right? Because I was a kid, right? And 10 years pass, I go to another specialist, right? Numerologist, she's a astrologist, everything in combined, right? And she says, no, you have that and that energy and that And you can use that energy in order to sell stuff, to speak to people, to communicate, right? To make friends, right? To make contacts, right? And I thought, wait a minute. 10 years, I used to think that I'm not able to do that. 10 years. Of course, I've worked in sales previously. I was selling books door to door in the United States. And I wasn't really good at that. And I thought, yeah, maybe that's because I'm not meant to do that, right? I didn't even think that I may not have enough skills yet to sell those books randomly to some random person on whose door I knock in the middle of the day. You get the point? And critical thinking is really, really important because you must understand that you don't know what you don't know. And just when you figure out some information, you learn something. Don't just start screaming, yes, finally I found it. That's the only thing that I'll need for the rest of my life. That may not be true. You must think that, all right, I got that knowledge, but still there is knowledge that I don't know yet, right? And I need to pursue that in order for me to get the bigger picture, right? So critical thinking is the most important thing. And I think that I've seen a lot of people on social media that have zero critical thinking skills. I'm not thinking about like critical thinking that all this spirituality stuff is bullshit. No. That's not what I'm talking about. Actual opposite. It's not bullshit. But you must think critically. And you must critically think about the person from who you're getting that knowledge, right? 7 point is that free will exists. So, if some random person who doesn't have any critical thinking skills will ask question of some spiritual coach, can I do that? And the spiritual coach will look at their methods and say, no, it's not good for you. You won't achieve anything. That might as well be not true, right? And you may choose yourself to do that because firstly that spiritual coach may not know what's best for you, right? Because as I said, he may use only one method, right? And a lot of spiritual people, I see that they think that what's written you can't change, and that's actually bullshit. Most of the time you can. Of course, sometimes it may take you more time to achieve the same result as other people, but that's everywhere in life, actually, right? So you can do what you choose because only you know internally what's best for you. I'm not talking about your lifetime. I'm not saying that you know right now what's best for you in a 20-year period. That's not true. No, nobody knows. But I think everybody now knows what's best for them to do right now in the upcoming day, in the upcoming week, right? I'm not talking about decades ahead. The 8th point why you're going to fail listening to your favorite spiritual coaches is no real knowledge. Well, one very close person in my family teaches actually numerology for 10 years and astrology, all those things. And that person said to me that so many people came to my courses, right? Some parts of my courses, they learned the fundamentals, the basics, and now they go out and portray themselves as gurus, as people who know everything. And they don't know shit. They don't know nothing about that, right? Because they just listened for some course, right? It took them, I know, 1 month, 2 weeks, I know, right? And then they think that they know everything and they can start teaching other people, right? And that's really, really bad because I talked about it previously. They don't have ethics because they don't understand that they have a very responsible job. They are guiding you through your spiritual journey, and that is really, really important thing because you can guide the person in a really wrong direction, right? They don't have knowledge. They don't have knowledge because it takes a lot of work to learn those things. It takes decades for some people to learn. And some people on TikTok are saying you, I know, let's talk about astrology. Yeah, now the lunar is on that position, your rising sign is this, so you may, I know, end your relationship this month with your partner. And it's ridiculous because not that's not how it's going to happen for the most of people, right? And some other person might think, oh my god, I just had some conflict with my husband, and that now the stars are saying that we should break up. That's really, really bad, right? 9 point is that usually you have, not usually, all the time, you have to be really, really smart in order to lead other people, right? No matter what direction. Now we are talking about spirituality, right? And most of those coaches that you see online are not really smart. They just aren't smart, right? Because how to understand if a person is not really smart and you shouldn't be listening to him, that he says that he knows the answer for your life, right? That you should do this, you should do that, that's the best way for you, do this exactly. That's bullshit. I think that I don't think I know that the most important thing that you as a person, as a spiritual coach, you have to teach other people how to think for themselves. And that's hard because not a lot of people want to be learning, right? So you have to be really, really smart. And those people just aren't. I'm not talking about everybody, right? Of course. There are great specialists and they lead people on the right way. But they lead people by teaching them how to think for themselves, right? And the last point is that you can't manifest everything that you want. Now, this manifestation thing is really popular, right? There are a lot of books, how to manifest everything. Every person online now speaks about manifesting millions, achieving everything in their life that they ever wanted just because of manifestation. And that might be true, but for the most people, it's not. And here's why exactly. Because most people, everybody thinks that they might actually get in their lives what they want. And that's completely not true, right? Because people don't understand that life is not about getting what you want. And I'm not going to talk about getting what kind of vibrations you have inside, just becoming the person that you are the vibration of, right? I'm not talking about that now. But it's not meant for everybody to become rich. It's not meant for everybody to drive Bugattis. It's not meant for everybody to be sitting in the yachts in Dubai, right? That's not true. But everybody thinks that they might be the ones. And look at the statistics, that's not true. And it won't be ever true. And it was never before true. So that's the most important thing, is that you may not get what you want just based on manifestations. And I see a lot of like online persons talking about only manifestation, that do this, do that, talk this mantra, meditate, believe, write something on the whiteboard that you want to drive a Lamborghini in 2 years and that you'll get that. That's not true. But of course, it's good to say that because you can sell a lot of stuff to people. Because some random person will come to the channel, they will see that I'm talking about how you can become rich because everybody can become rich. You get the point, right? There's a lot of people saying that if he did that, I can do that. That's completely not true. And in order to know that, That's why you have to learn about numerology, astrology, and other stuff, just for the basics, just to think for yourself. Am I good at that? Do I have something that can be used in my everyday life, right? And I can't stress this enough. Maybe you won't become rich. Maybe you're already rich and you understand that it's not meant for everybody. Just so, for example, there is the saying, sales, right? Everybody, a lot of people talk about online sales and so forth. And they say that if you learn the script, if you learn these words, you're gonna say to the person who you are trying to sell something and they will buy, right? And sales, if we are talking about sales, is not only about the words, not about the copywriting, right? That the person sees, hears, right? Or sees. It's about the aura of the person. It's about the salesman itself. So if the person has potential, if he has charisma, and you can't most of the time get that in your life, you must be born with that, sad true. But if you have charisma, right, if you know how to communicate, then you have potential to be the best at sales. But if you don't have charisma, right, you won't become known for that, right? The biggest example, right, in sales, like for 10 years past, is Jordan Belfort, right? Jordan Belfort, everybody knows, the Wolf of the Wall Street, right? He is now teaching how to sell, etc. But look at him himself. He has a charismatic appearance. He is a charismatic person. He knows how to communicate. He was born knowing how to communicate. That's why he became what he became, right? And some average Joe won't become him. Even if the average Joe will buy a course from Jordan Belfort in order to be taught how to sell, right? So it all relates to manifestation, that it's not all meant, that it's not meant for everybody. And it's really, really important to understand all those things, right? And the most important thing is that you have to think for yourself. You have to gather all the knowledge that it is possible, and when you learn that, then you try to apply it, right? That's the most important thing. To have a critical thinking, not to listen to everybody, not to do things that you feel inside that are right, but somebody on social media says that is wrong, and you just because of that don't do that, right? And if you want to learn about things that can help you in your life, go in my description. There is a link, right? So see you guys.